Parshas Korach. This week's Parsha, which can be found in Bamidbar Tesayin Aleph, which is Numbers 16:1 and following verses. So the Torah says, Vayikach Korach ben Yitzhar ben Kahas ben Levi. So Korach, who was the son of Yitzhar, the son of Kahas, who was the son of Levi. So Korach was a Levi. He's from the tribe of Levi. And with him was Dasan v'Aviram ben Eliyav on ben Peles ben Reuven. Dasan and Aviram and On ben Peles, according to Rashi, they were all the sons of Reuven. So we have a member of the tribe of Levi, and we have Dasan and Aviram and On ben Peles, who were from the tribe of Reuven. And what did they do? Vayakumu lifnei Moshe. They got up, they arose before Moses. V'anashim ibnei Israel chamishim v'sayim, and they had children of Israel. They had 250 followers. Nisei Edah, they were leaders of the people. Kuriemo Eiran Sheshem, they were well known, and they were leaders among the people. So what did they do? So they revolted. Vayikahalu Moshe ve'al, and they gathered on Moses and Aaron. Vayomru alehem, and they said to them, Rab lochem b'nei Levi, you children of Levi, you have enough. What was their assertion? So in the following verse, this is in verse 3, Pasuk Gimel, Ki chol ha'edah kulam kadoshim, the entire congregation is holy. Uv'socham Hashem, and God is among them. Umadua tisnaseu al Hashem, why should you rule over the congregation of God? That's their complaint. Their complaint is, why do you, Moshe and Aaron, Moses and Aaron, why do you get to lead the people? The implication is we should be leading the people. Who's the we? Who are the people who rose up? So we have Korach, and we have Dasan, Aviram, and On ben Peles. So Korach is from the tribe of Levi. Dasan, Aviram, and On ben Peles are from the tribe of Reuven. What's going on here? What's their question? So evidently, their question is, why do you get to rule? According to Rashi, Korach is saying, I am the son of Kahas. So why don't I get to lead? Why do you get to lead? Rab lachem b'nei Levi, you children of Levi, you've had enough. Now the Ibn Ezra is Avram, the son of Meir, Ibn Ezra, of the son of, or tribe of, or family of Ezra. Sometimes referred to simply as Ibn Ezra, although he's referred to by his first name by many of the commentaries, Rabbeinu Avram or Reb Avram. In any event, he lived in the 11th and 12th centuries in Spain, impoverished, and very, very prolific in his writings on many, many subjects, not only commentary on the Torah, but he was also a poet and a student of the sciences as well. In any event, Ibn Ezra suggests the following. He says that what happened was that this episode occurred in following the replacement of the Bechorim with the tribe of Levi as the spiritual leaders of the children of Israel. Now, the Bechorim were the firstborn, and we know that the Almighty had designated the firstborn as being kadosh, as being dedicated to Him. Kadesh li kol bechor. As a matter of fact, to this day, if there is a bechor, firstborn needs to be redeemed by the Kohen in a ceremony called Pidyon Haben, the redemption of the firstborn. So the firstborn had a special status, still has a status, but far diminished from what it was initially. Initially, the Almighty had chosen designated the firstborn of each family to be the spiritual leaders of the Bnei Israel, the children of Israel. And here we have the Leviim, the descendants of the tribe of Levi, or members of the tribe of Levi, who has replaced the Bechorim. How come? Well, at the time of the service, when the children of Israel served the golden calf, the only ones who desisted from that were members of the tribe of Levi. So God tapped them at the time to replace the firstborn as the spiritual leaders of the children of Israel. Korach didn't like that, and evidently there were 250 others who didn't like that. This is the reasoning of the Ibn Ezra, and the Ibn Ezra says this was a revolt of the firstborn. In other words, they had been deposed in what was in essence a political upheaval. The upheaval was that here the firstborn class, if you will, were replaced by the Levite class, and this did not meet with their favor. Now, who was Korach? Korach was both a Levite, he was a Levi, and he was also a Bechor. Korach ben Yitzhar, he was the firstborn of Yitzhar, who was the son of Kahas and who was the son of Levi. So Korach stood at the nexus of the complainers. There were those who complained about the loss of the status of the firstborn. That was represented by Reuven. Reuven was Yaakov's, or Israel's, firstborn. And he lost his status, and the status of the firstborn of each family was replaced with the Leviim, with the Levites. So here we have, this is an insurrection by Korach and his followers. They don't exactly have the same agenda, but they follow the political aphorism of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Both constituencies, that is, the firstborn, groups of the firstborn, or within that group, you have the children of Reuven, who was himself the firstborn of the 12 tribes. They weren't satisfied. They were replaced. Reuven was replaced. The Bechorim, the firstborn, were replaced with the Levites. And Ibn Ezra says that they suspected Moshe of putting in the fix in favor of his brother, his cohorts, because Moshe was of the tribe of Levi, and so was Aaron. So here you have a replacement of the political leadership and the spiritual leadership, which were intertwined, from the firstborn to the Levites. Korach feels like he's getting the short end of the stick. He's a Levi, but he doesn't get leadership. He's a firstborn, but he doesn't get leadership. He's very unhappy. His potential position is, he asserts, being usurped inappropriately by Moses and Aaron, by Moshe and Aaron. And they think that Moshe did it on his own. And we see this, says the Ibn Ezra, from Moshe's protestation, or protest, later where he says, Kilomi libi, I didn't do this. This wasn't my own concoction. I didn't come up with a system of governance. This was God who did it. And the test is that they offered the ketores, the incense, on the incense burners from these 250 men. And the incense that they brought was consumed, as were the people who brought the incense. So they were goners. Now we also had another test, which was the matos. The representative of each tribe brought his mata, his stick, perhaps his walking stick, and they wrote their names on each of the sticks. And then it says, Ish es shemo tichtov amateo. Every man, his name shall be written on his staff. The es shem Aharon tichtov amate Levi. Kimatech al deresh beis avosam. And Aaron's name should be written on the tribe of Levi. And guess what? It was V'hoyo ha'ish asher evchar bo mate yifrach. And the man who I've chosen, his staff will blossom, and I will remove all the complaints. And that's in fact what happened. And it was V'hinei parach mate Aharon lebeis Levi. And the staff of Aaron blossomed. And that removed the doubt. Now, it didn't make people happy. People were not happy with this, and that is generally the rule. The people who lose their positions are not happy with the fact that they get replaced. And this is recorded in the Chumash, and you can read about it in the paper today. People who get replaced in politics are generally unhappy, and this is understandable, except that when it's God who does the choosing, and it's undeniably God who does the choosing, which is what happened here because of the supernatural or supranatural method with which the indication was given, which is either because the people who brought the incense were completely consumed, or because the staff of Aaron was the one that blossomed. That's incontrovertible evidence. That happened. We know who God designated. Now, we don't usually have those kinds of supernatural manifestations these days. But the principle remains that people whose turf is taken from them, or who are removed from the turf, generally are unhappy, or they're at risk of being unhappy. If we know that it's God's will, then happy or not, it's God's will, we submit ourselves to God's will. We generally understand that the Almighty runs the world. He controls the events of history. He determines what goes into the hearts of leaders, and they follow His will, whether they are inclined to do so or not. And ultimately, the decision of who's in control, who leads, is not a question of personal aggrandizement or achievement, but rather what is best for the tzibur, what is best for the community, the people. Sometimes the natural leader is the one who everybody acclaims and everyone sees has those skills and leadership abilities. Sometimes it's not so clear. Our job is not to defend our personal positions and our personal status, but rather to look to the community and to see who is best suited for the job. Clearly, if we have a sign from God, that's very helpful. And if we don't have a sign from God, then what we need to do is not to put our needs above those of the community, but rather to respond to the needs of the community. Sometimes that response is to defer to others. Sometimes that response is to step up to the plate and to assume the responsibility. But whichever way it goes, the ultimate goal is to do the will of our Creator. Have a good Shabbos.